So in this video, I'm going to go through how we can use Cornell notes as a revision strategy with the focus on how we can use this in chemistry. So I'm going to act as a year 9 student and I'm going to talk through how we use each of the different sections of the Cornell notes method to revise for a up and coming test. So the first section for all of the revision strategies is identify. So we can see here that in identify, we have 3 prompts to help us use it effectively. So we need to know what topic we're creating our Cornell notes on, and I've chosen atomic structure, and that's because I've got a test that my teacher has set, so I know that's going to be my focus. It also asks, do you have the resources that you need and where could you look for these? So I have gone onto Shobi in my science class and I have located a knowledge organiser for this topic. So this knowledge organiser was given to me by my teacher. It was found on Shobi and I've also got it uploaded onto GoodNotes. So this gives me all the information that I will need to complete my Cornell note revision strategy. Other places that you can look for, it doesn't have to be a knowledge organiser. You could use your lesson slides on GoodNotes and Shobi. You could ask your teacher for anything specific. And you can also go to online revision resources like BBC Bitesize, but I really recommend that you check with your teacher to make sure that those online resources are the best to use. I've also decided that for my Cornell notes template, I'm going to use the template provided on GoodNotes. And we can see here that on GoodNotes, it actually divides your page exactly how you would for a Cornell note-taking page. So we can see here at the top, we have got our title, which obviously for this one, we're going to put atomic structure. The first section I'm going to write on is my notes. So this large section is where you write the majority of the notes. And I've just put a note there to say you can include bullet points, pictures and symbols are really good. And obviously for different subjects, you may want to use formulas and equations. After completing that, you would complete the second section, which is this column down the left hand of your page. And that's for appropriate keywords and or some questions that you might use as prompts when you use the Cornell notes. And then finally, you would complete the last section, the summary. And that's just for a couple of summary notes that condenses all that information into 2 or possibly 3 summary sentences. But I really recommend no more than 3 because you're trying to condense that information into 3 points. Okay, so I've got my template, I've got my resources. The next part of this poster goes through the design. Okay, so again, it's going through in this list how to use the Cornell notes. Now, this topic, atomic structure, is a topic that I did last term, so it's not that fresh in my memory. So what I'm going to do, rather than going straight into writing everything down from memory, I've used my knowledge organiser to identify some of the key headings, okay? And I've actually put those on my Cornell notes, all right? And that should help me to, it should prompt me to recall that information from memory relative to these topics, okay? And you can see that my title is atomic structure, okay? So I've got my prompts, I'm now in one colour going to write down everything I can for each of these subheadings, okay? And you can see that I've done that in green, okay? Now, if I just zoom in a little bit, you can notice that I've not used that many full sentences. I've used some pictures. I've used some keywords for each of these things, okay? Also note that I've used some symbols, so it's like my kind of shorthand. So for example, I've put E-, which is my shorthand for electron, okay? Also note though that I've not fully filled everything out because I can't remember it the first time that I have revisited this topic, okay? So that's kind of like my first draft. Now I know I'm missing things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my knowledge organizer. Where is it? There we go. And I'm just going to refresh my memory a little bit more. And I've noticed a few more things that I can actually write down now in my second section. So I've got some keywords that are associated with that subtopic. Okay. And I've also got I've written down some questions. So what is the symbol? How do you calculate it? And again, those things are going to help me a bit later on when I'm going to use this resource. And at the bottom, I'm going to try and write a summary sentence. And again, I've only included one because at the minute, that's all that I can remember. So atoms contain protons and neutrons in a nucleus and electrons in shells. Okay, so that's kind of a completed first draft of my Cornell notes. Again, I'm then going to revisit my knowledge organizer because I know that I've not got everything I need to fully revise this topic. So I'm going to prompt myself again. I might read through certain sections of my knowledge organizer again to help me remember. I'm going to put that to one side and then I'm going to change my colour. So I've changed it to pink this time, and you can see for each section I have now added in pink some of the things that I was missing before. So I've done a table here that summarises the mass and charges of my subatomic particles. I've added another keyword here that will help me to prompt prompts a bit later on. I've included an equation that I need to remember, and I've done a couple more examples of things that will help me. So for example, I've drawn the electronic configuration for sodium. I've also added a few more questions, a few more keywords, and I've added my final kind of summary point at the bottom. So once I've done all that, I've now got a completed Cornell notes for my topic of atomic structure. Okay, so looking at the, if I go back to the poster that outlines how to do this effectively, I have obviously identified, I've now fully designed my Cornell notes, and now we need to move on to these final 3 points. Now, these are the 3 parts of the revision strategy that are often missed by students. Students will obviously identify a topic and make their revision resource, but then don't go on to actually using it, revisiting it and reviewing it. And that's really, really important, because the more times that we use it and revisit it, the more times that the more likely we are, to embed that into our memory. Okay, so I'm going to look at the use section now. And it says, cover the note-taking column and look only at the left-hand column. Say out loud the answer or write your answers down again. You can complete a quiz or design a quiz, or you can, it says to test yourself at least 3 times. So what I've done here using the Good Notes Cornell method is I've used this tape icon, and this allows you to cover up sections. I'm just going to do one here at the bottom. It allows you to cover it up so you can't see it, but when you click on it, it reveals what's underneath, which is a really nice thing that you can do using a digital tool like GoodNotes. So I'm on to the use part of using my Cornell notes, and it says to cover up my notes section, which I've done with these orange tape marks, and I'm going to use my prompts, my keywords here to help me recall that information that is covered up in the orange, under the orange tape. So I might ask myself, right, what's an electron got to do with atomic structure? And I'm going to say out loud, okay, well, an electron is a negative particle. It's found in the shells surrounding the nucleus. And then I move on to my next one, proton, and do the same thing. Okay, now I can say these answers out loud, or I might have a blank copy of my Cornell Notes template where I can write those answers down. Then obviously to check, I can literally just click on the tape and it reveals to make sure that I have got it right. If I didn't get it right, I can recover it, ask myself the question again and test myself again. You might also want to go a step further and design yourself some quiz questions that you can ask yourself, having made sure that the notes section is covered up. And that's another way that you can test yourself on the information that you've put in your Cornell notes. Okay, so I've used it, I've tested myself at least 3 times. I'm now onto the revisit section. Okay, so I might have identified that I got a couple of things wrong when going through and testing myself. So it might be that when I looked at my when I looked at the history of the atom, I couldn't remember all of the scientists' names, and I couldn't remember what they did in developing the atomic model. So it's at this point where I could go back to my knowledge organizer and again add some information here. I could go back to my lesson slides and again look for that information, or I could go and ask my teacher to help me fill in some more information about the history of the atom. Again, I could then cover it up and retest myself, making sure that that knowledge is becoming more secure. And then the final section of how to use Cornell Notes effectively is the review section. Okay, so it might be that again, I'm still struggling with learning what the scientists contributed to the atomic model. So I might go and ask my teacher a bit more about that. But once I feel really secure in my knowledge and I'm able to answer my questions, give the definitions of the keywords that I put in my Cornell notes, I might be now ready to apply my understanding and my knowledge to answering some exam questions. Now, those exam questions can come from your teacher, they can come from your resources on Shobi, or again, you might look online for those. But again, make sure that those are appropriate by asking your teacher. And then the final question you need to ask yourself is this: was this a helpful and effective revision method for you? So the Cornell Notes is obviously just one of the 4 strategies that we recommend at SJB. And it might be that for this particular topic, it works really, really well. Or you might identify that actually I might try using flashcards, for example, to revise this specific topic. But it's always worth reviewing what you've done with your teacher and talking through what you've done, what worked, what didn't work, and they could suggest some possible other revision strategies like flashcards or mind maps to revise effectively for that topic. I hope you found this video useful. And just really do make sure that once you have identified and designed your Cornell notes, that we continue to use it, revisit it, and review this technique. Thank you.